Okay, we're in business.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm on.
So, good evening to the two participants. Thank you, Luke, and thank you, Mr. Mike. So, I realize that it is election night, and when I originally made the time for this meeting, because this is the second Tuesday of the month, so our date is correct. Unfortunately, it's election night, so we should have adjusted the schedule, and I did not realize that. So I do apologize for anyone who wanted to attend and couldn't because of the election night duties. So let me just show you how the agenda has been shifted so that we have that information. Hold on one second. Let me click off my screen here. Why won't you turn off? Okay, there we go. Okay. WebEx is insisting that she wants to help. I'm turning her off. She keeps popping up. All right. Okay. Let me just show you the agenda. Give me 1 minute to find that. There we go. And I am going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. Perfect. All right. So, Egeria was the only member that was excused, but like I said, it's election night. We will be getting, and here's the agenda. We will be getting an update on Ujamba Gardens, but that will probably happen in December. Matt is a city employee, so therefore he is off today, so he will not um, give us any updates at the moment, but I will check with him. I will shoot him a text message, Mr. Mike, about the in reference to the RC park. The Woman of Woodlawn, I had an brief discussion with them in reference to the renaming of Indian Field. Um, Obviously, the name Indian Field is insensitive to the Native American community and so, like many other organizations, the constituents of Woodlawn would like the to make a name change. So that is something that they are going to be presenting, and they would be looking for a letter of support from the Parks Committee from CB12 for this name change. So their presentation will be coming in December. It shouldn't take too long. And there's some interesting history behind the name change. It is for a chief who was instrumental in this particular area and who worked with the Union Army during the Revolution. And there is a small plaque that is located in the Lawn area. Hold on, wait, I'm going to tell you where. It is near Oneida Avenue and the Relay Triangle. And every year, the Daughters of the American Revolution do have a small tribute to this chief. So that presentation will take place um, at the December meeting. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay. So in the update to the capital projects, that would come from Mike Ortiz. Once again, due to the election, he's not here. Um, so the possible green spaces within Community Board 12. Um, Luke, you want to just discuss what it is that you envision for that space and tell us a little bit about the space, and then I'll share my screen with another bit of information that we have from that was received from Councilman Riley's office.
Sure. So I found there's actually two spaces that I found that could be potential spaces, green spaces that we could hopefully, I mean, one day add to the community board. These are spaces that are paper streets, so they exist as streets on paper, but they're in actuality usually just fenced off or abandoned, and and they are publicly owned, so they're owned by the city. One of them is a 2 block stretch of Burke Avenue, where it uh, between Haffen Park and the 6 train or the 5 train. And the other is this area at Given Avenue and Wickham Avenue. Um, so I'm happy to share my screen to show those. And I just found
Oh,
these by,
okay.
yeah,
Oh, one second,
yeah,
Luke. Let me stop sharing, and
okay,
then you will be able to share. Hold on one second, please.
okay.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I just found these by looking on the city's website. Um, I'm kind of a nerd for some of these things, and I found that where the trains intersect with the street grids, it often creates really strange intersections. And sometimes that means it creates uh, abandoned areas. Um, so this, for example, is an area at here's Given Avenue, and here's Wickham. And on paper, it's all street land. Here's the same roadway. This is the Department of City Planning website. So, but on in actuality, it's fenced off, and it's being used by an adjacent trucking company um, right here. So this, according to city records, and I don't know if George has looked into this specific area to see if there's any kind of agreement that this operator has with the city to use this space, but one idea was that um, we could potentially convert some of these spaces to green spaces as a way for people to cut through if they want to walk from this area to this area. We could put benches up or a water fountain, or have some nice shrubbery or something like that. But this is all depending on whether or not we could actually get this kind of space. The other area is on right between Haffen Park and the train. It's Burke Avenue where all these trees are, and I don't think there's anything that's, on the books for this. It's supposed to be a street, but it was never built out. And here's what it looks like in the winter time. It's we have a lot of trees growing on it naturally. So it's supporting, different probably birds and different types of wildlife. There's also, you can see in the distance, somebody put an abandoned boat here, like a yacht. And I think there might be a homeless encampment inside this area too. But I guess my vision is first to try to turn this from DOT owned property into parks property. That's like the biggest hurdle. From there, it's really a community vision to, I mean, my idea would be take this fence off, put a nice walking path, and people who live down the block here could walk to the park more easily or have a space to sit and enjoy coffee after work or catch up with a neighbor, maybe some chess tables or something. It could be really for anything, but the first step is, I don't know if this is a ULERP process to demap these areas. Um, there is, George mentioned that there's a development coming up here. I'm not sure if that would mean that they would have to build out a curb. Um, they might, but yeah, I think, one thing that excites me about projects like this is talking to people on the street and getting a sense of maybe collecting signatures and seeing if people are satisfied with how it is now, if there's any appetite for more parkland in CB12 to clean some of this up and give people some more areas to enjoy. So that's an overview of the two areas in question, and
Right.
yeah,
Okay, so I think that if we did receive an email from uh, good evening, Miss Dickinson. Thank you for joining. We did receive an email from George, and I think that it would have to be a once he's finished doing his due diligence as in terms of the steps necessary to build out a property, you would have to then it's I think it's Department of Transportation, if I'm not mistaken, and Land Use and Parks. So it would be a joint meeting between the three committees in reference to that. But there is some due diligence that he still has to do in reference to the Burke Avenue by Haffen Park. But then we were also sent an email from Cynthia Prisco of Councilman Riley's office, where she mentions I think like 4 or 5 other projects. I mean, not projects, excuse me. We would like to see them as projects, but 4 or 5 areas that could possibly be turned into some green spaces, and that would be Tillotson Avenue, Parma Avenue, Wallace and Avenue, and then East 222nd. So those 4 areas. And so I'm going to just share my screen for 1 second to show you hold on 1 second to show you a little bit of the areas. Now, I myself have not done any research on this. This was just based on the email that was received. And this email was sent to Beatrice. So hold on 1 minute.
While you're doing that, Denise, good evening, family. Glad to
Good
see
evening. Good
everybody.
evening. All right. So this is the Burke Avenue site. Can everyone see the screen? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Burke Avenue site, and I think they have identified. Right, so I think this was a general tool. They use the tax map, Luke. I don't know if you use that as well. You're familiar with that, Luke?
Yes, I looked
Yes.
at that to make sure that it was owned by the city.
Oh, okay. So that's Cynthia Prisco from Councilman Riley's office used to identify these areas. Um, so she also talks about as another a site, Sexton Place and Wickham. DOT actually appears to own it as a property, characteristically standing out from the other streets. Okay, so there's quite a few um, properties. I think that once we start digging, we'll be able to see that there are quite a few. And then this is the Tillotson. This is the Tillotson here. Oh, I think you did some sort of a walkthrough. They mentioned you here, something, Luke, that
Right.
you did a walkthrough.
Yeah, there was this area, it's kind of towards the right of this image, and it's all this green space, which is technically supposed to be street space, but yeah, that's another um, park. And one thing is that, like, if we want to kind of go forward with some of these, I don't know if sometimes adjoining property owners have more property rights or dibs for some of these unused sections of public land. So, if we want to claim these as potentially public parks or parkland, we might want to try to identify them and try to at least move forward a little bit quickly because that would be great. I mean, all of these, it would be
Right.
really
I
amazing.
I I think that the part of this is that I mean I think that it's great that we have more green spaces. Don't get me wrong. I've always advocated for that. But I think that we just have to be careful about which property we need to like make our a list of like maybe our top 5 or something like that because the resources are limited. So you don't want to spread yourself so thin and then we have to really look at in detail at each property because it depends on the ownership. It depends on the constituents who live in that area and what they would like to see as well. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to live with it 24/7. So I think it's important to have their input as well in this. So I will forward the email to you, Luke, and you can see what these are. And then at the December meeting, we can have maybe a broader discussion with more interested parties in terms of what we would like to do moving forward. And hopefully by then, George will have more information for us because he was still in the process of doing his due diligence so that he could inform us, is my understanding. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds great. The only
Okay.
the only challenge I see is that, when we have community conversations about what our priorities are, a lot of times people, you know, I'm just worried that when we have parkland or potential parkland, people are just going to say, let's pave it, let's turn it into a parking lot. And, which is a valid community interest, but we arguably we might have a greater need for actual park space. And I'm just, I hope some of these interesting conversations don't get segued by people wanting more parking spots, you know?
Well, I think that's, I mean, yes, parking is an issue in our community, but I think what we're suggesting in, especially in particular the areas that we're suggesting it, that type of parking, it's not like it's White Plains Road, so
Right.
that type of parking is not per se the issue in those particular areas. So, especially like where you're talking about near Haffen Park, parking is not an issue right there, unless they're having an event at Haffen or something like that. Um, and
Yeah,
that Tillison area, yeah,
yeah.
the right in those particular areas, that parking is not of issue.
Like if you live in the middle of the district, you kind of don't have any parks really close nearby.
No,
Um,
no, not absolutely not within walking distance. And
right.
last year, I did have the New York City Partnership for Parks. They came in and they told us about the work that they have done in terms of surveying the New York City area, and they highlighted our community board for us to show that where the information was the same data that you mentioned in the general board meeting, that we're close to almost dead last in the borough in terms of having green spaces. So definitely with the um with the gardens, I always mess this name up, Ujambe Gardens coming up. That is one feather in our cap for trying to get green space, and hopefully that we can then uh, duplicate that with, well, maybe one of these properties here. But I just think that we have to. What I'm saying is that we should be strategic about what the property is. Like I think the property near Haffen Park, I think that's ideal. That's ideal really because that area could act as kind of an extension of Haffen Park and be and have the greenery. So we have and so we just and that would not be a burden to the community there because they already have Haffen Park. So making just this green space would not put an undue stress on anyone in the community, as far as I can see. So, but we still just want to do our due diligence as a community board and make sure that the constituents in those areas are comfortable with the ideas that we're putting forward. So,
Definitely.
um, that is the deal. But I will definitely forward this email to you so that you have it for your reference.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, that
All
sounds
right.
good. Oh, one last
Yes.
question I have about this is, if when we talk about the work and making sure that we have enough, attention to be able to dedicate to these types of things, is the process very involved? Like you have to go through ULERP or something? Like is it like a heavy application process that would have to get
It
done?
it really, I think, from my understanding, and please know that I'm not an expert on ULIP or anything else. But in that it comes to that. But my understanding is that it really depends on who currently owns the property and whether it has been mapped out as a street. Where you see that it's mapped out as a street, although what did you refer to it as a
A paper street.
paper street? Thank you. If you see that it on paper, if it's mapped out as a street, that means that it requires the Department of Transportation to be involved in that. That is different as opposed to a ULURP property. So I think
Oh,
that that's why we have to. Has to have all of the different committees involved. You have to have parks, you have to have transportation, and land use.
okay.
All three have to be involved in that process. And I think when George gets back to us, we will have a clearer path as to what needs to happen. But I think the first step would be to decide who owns the property, and then once George gives us that backstory of where what we can do, then we can move forward. That's my understanding. Okay. And then just prior to our start of the meeting, we also, um, Mr. Mike brought up the fact that the RC Park, he happened to be in Shoelace Park, and I just want to get this on the record, Mr. Mike. So, and he saw that there was fencing around the property where the RC Park was, or used to be, I should say. Well, it's what has happened is that the group that was in charge of that was going to be in charge of having the RC events and things of that nature, the leadership has changed. And with that change in leadership, I'm not sure if they really have continued to have events. So the Parks Department, as they did promise, that if they saw that the organization was not keeping up with it and not keeping their end of the bargain kind of up, that they would just basically level it. And so I think that that is what has taken place because the RC group is no longer um, in vogue at this point, I should say. So I will be checking, and we can also bring this up in the December meeting with Matt. I'm sure he would have more of the up to date details. I don't want to bother the former leader of the group because he's no longer involved with the leadership in that. So I will definitely check with Matt on that. Okay, Mr. Mike?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about it, so that's why I
All right.
asked because
Yeah.
I
The
was
last
surprised.
I heard, he just got in touch. The gentleman who was the former president of the group just got in touch with me to let me know that he was no longer going to be doing with it, and that was all that was said to me. So
I guess that'll be extra park space. They're probably gonna put some benches and some grass.
they're gonna put some benches
Yeah,
and grass and call it a day.
unless or either they'll leave the fencing up and just have nothing there, which is scary too.
Which is scary. Yeah, that is not. I think that if we have no interest in the RC group, if they're not going to do anything with it, in my opinion, just level it. Don't leave it fenced like that because that's aesthetically not pleasing, and then the community cannot utilize the area, even if it's just to put a blanket down and relax yourself in the park.
It's
So.
it's a nice size space.
Um,
It's a nice size space too. So
yeah, exactly. It's a good sized space. So I see no reason for them just to leave the fencing up. That I think is unacceptable.
Do you think they would present any kind of like plan of what they're gonna do with the space to us?
Well, by rights, because of the broken agreement, I don't think that they have to necessarily present a plan to us. And within they can just simply the agreement was not lived up to, therefore they can just revert it back to what they said they were going to do in the case of the agreement not being lived up to. That was stated very clearly on by the Parks Department as to what their position was on this.
And after they level it, like, have they said what they want to do? Like, are they gonna turn it into a lawn or, put benches up or?
We can get more details from them. I don't know if it's going to be a lawn. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that part because of what the current state is. They're going to probably do the least expensive um idea in terms of just
yeah,
to bring it back to whatever. lawn, I don't know about lawn. I'm not so sure about. You might wind up with some dirt. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You
Some
know, see some
grass. They
dirt.
can't afford grass.
Uh, that would require seeds. That would
Oh,
require
oh my
seeds and
gosh.
sod. You know,
Well, we can
I
always go,
don't know. I
always
don't
go get
know.
grass seed
I'm
down.
just saying. We can
Yeah.
find out more details from Matt as to exactly what the deal is. But I think that the it's unfortunate. I was very hopeful. I was hoping that the RC group would have events, and it could be really a feature within our community board that not every community board has that, but
Right.
it really does. What I've learned through this process is when organizations step up and they say that they want those letters of support from the community board, they have to really be willing to keep up their end of it. We can support them and back them, but if they're not really going to keep up their end of it, then it's not going to work out. It's not really going to work out. So we do our best to support them, but they have to
You,
do their part.
you know what would be kind of cool, and I don't know if, they would even have the budget to do this, but if they wanted to put a kayak access point right over there.
Well, the Bronx River Alliance does have a kayak access point, I believe at 219th,
Yeah,
222nd,
216th,
something
I
of that
think.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Bronx River Alliance already has an access point um in that vicinity, like. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they would be willing to put something else there. But maybe, I don't know. It's definitely a possibility. I think that the other thing I would like to see, that you bring up another good point, is that the Bronx River Alliance is a I think that in forming a strong relationship with them, and I think that at least under my tenure, I've tried to reach out with them and be a part and partner with them so they that we can in our community more uptown. I see that the different activities that they have, um, closer to the South Bronx area, we do not have the same type of level of engagement within our community for the things that they are doing. So I would like to see that more publicized and things of that nature, going forward, because I went to their event last year, and to see the children out on the Bronx River kayaking, you might have thought that you were someplace upstate, really, and it was pretty amazing to see, and to see the children just being children, and their eyes just lit up with, oh, we were in the kayak, and they had on the long boots and everything else, and they were kayaking. It was pretty amazing. So if we could get that level of interest in our uptown now, I think that that would be pretty amazing for our kids to have that type of access. But that also would require, that where's the funding going to come for something like that? And this is where Councilman Riley's office and our politicians maybe can have help us with the resources for that. But we have to first generate the interest. We have to generate the interest, and then maybe we start off small and then build into something else. But the interest has to be there. All right. So I think I did a lot of talking.
Yeah, they've got this by Starlight Park, they've got this new community center where they have a bunch of kayaks and
Yeah,
they've got
that's
it.
exactly what the
Yeah,
event was. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
beautiful, beautiful
Yes,
space.
yes,
I mean, I think that was also part of a, multi-million dollar, like they redid the bridges over there, so like
absolutely,
huge
absolutely.
investment. But
That
I mean,
the building itself, sorry to cut you off, Luke, but the building itself is pretty amazing, because
oh yeah.
the building itself is pretty amazing. Very, very nice. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's like now that you mention that, it's like, wouldn't it be great if they made a little community center right here? But I know that, when they had the hurricane last, Hurricane Ida, that space flooded a lot. Um,
Correct.
so I'm not sure, if this would be some kind of really large capital project, if they wanted to do anything that would have to be flood resistant.
Yeah,
Um,
it would definitely require that it would have to be reworked because
right.
yeah, but having that when I saw that in Starlight Park, I'm saying why couldn't we have something like that uptown? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that first of all, I not many people even know that there's the outlet there at the 219, 220. I forget if it's 219, 222nd Street for to that, and they have events there even. But there's very little interest, and I think the part of it is that it's not publicized. So I would really like to see, and I've been in touch with Miss Toro from Bronx River Alliance also to see if we can get more publicity, like have a News 12, come out and feature it, those type of things. Because not many people, I'm sure there would be some interest from the community, but people don't know. If you don't know, you're not going to go and look for, you think that that's over there, and you wouldn't have any idea.
Mm.
So, let me look back at the agenda. So Miss Toro from the Bronx River Line, she's not here today either. As always, I like to give the Urban Park Rangers a plug. They have many activities that they do throughout within the community board 12, and it's always I'm gonna put there. Let me just make a copy this. Copy the link, and I'll put it in the chat. They always have interesting activities that take place with the urban park rangers. If looking for something to do, and the weather has been so, I call it Mother Nature having a bit of a breakdown because 80 one day and then 50 the next. But if you're looking for outdoor activities, urban park rangers has always has some sort of programming. Um, I think that's it for me. I don't have anything else. I think we've covered the agenda. And like I said, in the beginning, I do apologize for holding the meeting on election night because when I have originally planned the meeting, this is our scheduled time. I just didn't realize it coincided with election night. Okay, so we will revisit some of these things. Luke, I will be sending you that email so that you can have that as part of your information. Any other concerns or questions or information that would be relevant to the Parks Committee?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Other than the fact
So,
that no apology is necessary, Madam Chair.
no, no, well, I was like, oops, oh well. but,
Yo,
but,
you trying to work with kids all day, trying to have a life. Come on now. We appreciate you.
all right.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Wait, don't sign off just yet, Luke, because let me send this email to you right now. So this way I can make sure that I have captured your email address correctly. Hold on. I'm doing this backwards. Why am I doing this backwards? Okay, hold on one second. I'm getting myself together. Oh, here it is. And I'm getting your email address. Okay. Okay, Luke, I think I forwarded it to you correctly. If you could just check to make sure you received it. This way I know I did it correctly because Sometimes Gmail acts a little weird for me, but I think it's totally the user issue.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, you're welcome. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking time out of your schedule, and let's see how the elections turn out.
Fingers crossed. Good,
Fingers,
good night,
fingers,
everybody.
fingers,
Yeah.
toes, eyes crossed, everything.
Good night.
Have a
All
good
right.
Good
night.
night. Good
Have
meeting.
a good
Good,
night.
good
Bye
meeting
bye.
with all four of us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.